Okay, guys, so again, we're still starting chapter 4. Before we start chapter 4, we are going to hit some review skills. The next review skill we are going to talk about is actually from chapter 2. So we're going back to look at section 2.66, the extension. And in this extension section, we are talking about writing equations of parallel, that's the symbol for parallel, and perpendicular lines, that's the symbol for perpendicular. So let's just talk about some simple linear equation review. So horizontal lines are horizontal, they go left to right. They're a straight, flat, horizontal line. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. The equation of a horizontal line is y equals a number. Think about that. If we draw a horizontal line, let's say right here at 2, that equation would be y equals 2. Okay, it's at the y value of a horizontal line. Think about which axis the line intersects. Intersecting the y-axis means the equation will be in the form y equals a number, right? A horizontal line intersects the y-axis, so that's why it's y equals a number. Vertical lines, they go up and down, right? That's what a vertical line is. The slope is undefined of a vertical line. There's no slope. It's not 0, that's a number. There's no slope of a vertical line. The equation is x equals a number. So again, think about it's going to intersect the x-axis. So the equation is going to be x equals a number. And I'll show you an example of a vertical line. Let's say at 3, notice it's intersecting the x-axis. So the equation of that vertical line is x equals 3. Here's your x-axis. It's intersecting the x-axis. We need to remember some formulas here. So to find the slope of lines that are not either vertical or horizontal, so they have a slant to them, we use this formula, and this should be pretty familiar, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's when we're given 2 points. When we look at a graph, we have to remember this phrase, rise over run. Okay, we've got different equations, 3 different equations of lines. We've got slope-intercept form. Remember, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. We've got point-slope form. Again, m is the slope, and you're going to see a x1 and a y1. That's a point on the line. And now we've got standard form as ax plus by equals c. So let's practice here. Let's look at the graph, and we're going to determine the slope of the line, then write the equation of the line. Okay, so for A, let's find, we're going to do line C. So here's line C. I notice right away it's a horizontal line, right? It's a horizontal line, which means my slope, we just wrote down, is 0. And then if I write the equation of the line, notice it intersects the y-axis. Horizontal line, it's going to be y equals the number. It's intersecting 2, 4, 6, so it's intersecting at 7. Y equals 7 is the equation of the line. Notice we're now going to do line D. Here's line D. Oh man, it's a vertical line, which means my slope is undefined. Vertical lines, the equation is x equals a number, which makes sense because this line D intersects the x-axis at 4. So x equals 4 is the equation of the line. And now we're going to do line A. So we need to find the slope. Here's line A. When we're going to find the slope, let's pick 2 points on the line. So let's go here and here. And we are going to do rise over run when we have a graph. So I get to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So do those hops. So I'm going to say rise over run. We just rose 4. And now I'm going to run 1, 2, 3 is my slope. Okay. Notice I don't know what the y-intercept is. It's some decimal. So that's why I have to use point-slope form. And we're going to plug in everything we know. So I'm going to plug in, we need a point. Let's just use this point, 5, 7. And it's going to be x1 and y1. So my y1 is 7. You can use any point. I could have used the 2, 3. At any point on the line. equals the slope times x minus x1. And here's the equation of the line in point slope form. And then let's do line B is right here. My slope, we can do rise over run again. Find 2 points here. I could use this point and this point. And I'm going to do hops from this point to the, I'm going to rise. 1, 2, 3, 4 is my rise. And I'm going to run with hops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice this line is going downhill. So remember, uphill is a positive slope. Downhill lines have a negative slope. So we can throw a negative on the slope. And then again, we can write an equation in point slope form. I'm going to use the same formula, and I'm going to use this point right here. So there's my x1 and my y1. So I'm going to have y minus 2 is my y1 equals my slope times x minus a negative 1, that turns into plus 1. We are no longer, guys, writing two signs together. That's silly, right? We're in Algebra 1 now. We can know that two negatives make a positive. There's my equation of that line. Okay, the next example we're going to do is we're going to practice graphing the equations below on the coordinate plane. Okay, so right away I know this is slope-intercept form. And I can say, okay, my slope is 3 because that's where the m is, and the b is negative 4, my y-intercept, and that's what I'm going to use to graph. So I'm going to plot my y-intercept first, and I'm going to go to negative 4, and then I'm going to use my slope. So remember, whole numbers have a denominator of 1. So my rise is 3, 1, 2, 3, and I run 1. I can do it again, rise 1, 2, 3, and I run 1. And here's my equation, my graph for A. I'll label it A. Okay, now let's check out this next one. If this is in point slope form, I can point out the slope and the point. The slope is negative 1/3, and the point is 4, 2. Notice the negatives are already in there, so I just look at the number. So I go to that point, I can plot 4, 2, and I'm going to use my slope. It's in the negative direction, so I'm going to rise 1 and run 3 to the left. Rise 1, run 3 to the left. And there's line B. And then for problem C here, I do have to do a little bit of work because it's in standard form, and unfortunately, I can't get any information from standard form. That's the worst part about it. So what we need to do is solve for y. So I could get it in slope-intercept form, and then I can see what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. So I'm going to subtract the 2x first. Remember, adding and subtracting first. Not like terms, so they just go together. And then I'm going to divide everything by 4 to get that y by itself. And I get y equals negative 1/2 x, because 2/4 is 1/2, plus 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. Here's the equation of my line. And now notice really easily I can look at y equals mx plus b. So my m is negative 1/2 and my b is 2. I start with the b, I plot that at 2, and then I use my slope. Again, it's going in the negative direction, so I'm going to rise 1 and run 2 to the left. Rise 1, run 2 to the left. I'm going to go down a little bit here too. And that's my equation for number C, letter C. The next problem that we are going to look at is problem 3 here. We're going to answer this word problem. So we're going to use the graph. It says, how much money does Joe save per week? So our rate of change is going to be how much he's saving. Notice this is the graph for how much he's saving as time goes on. Okay, the rate of change. We're going to use slope is y2 over it's hard, right? It's hard to see the rise over run. So that's why we're going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 for this one. We're going to pick 2 points on this graph. We're just going to pick the beginning here. That's going to be 0, 30. And then we can pick the next one. Let's go here. 2, 40. And this is going to be my x1, y1, x2, y2. So then I'm going to do y2, which is 40, minus y1, which is 30. And guys, I could have picked any points on the line. We just want to stick with whole numbers. x2 minus x1. And I'm going to get 10 over 2. So my slope is 5. So he's saving $5 each week. That's this change. That's the slope. How much money did Joe start with? Well, that happens at the very beginning. So that's going to be right here. It's our y-intercept is how much at the beginning. Y-intercept at the start, at the beginning, we've got $30 Joe starts with. And then the last question is estimate how much money Joe will have after 24 weeks. Notice the graph doesn't go to 24. That's when we use the equation. And guys, we have to write this equation, but not to worry, I just found the 2 things I need. I need the slope and the y-intercept to write an equation. So I'm going to plug in the slope we got was 5 and our y-intercept was 30. 24 months. Notice, is that an x value or a y value? Well, this is time. 24 months, I have to go is 96 weeks, and that's an x value. So I'm going to substitute that in for x. And then we're going to multiply 5 times 96, and then we'll add, and we get 510. Joe will have $510 after 24 months. Make sure you check the units there. I had to go from months to weeks because my graph was in weeks. Okay, so guys, this is a little review on finding slope, writing equations of lines, and graphing lines, and we've got a word problem in there. Great job, guys.